This guy is Kataru, the only person still alive in this abandoned city. He does not know why, but he has gradually accepted it. Every night, he wanders aimlessly all over the place. One time, Kataru was drawn to a tree behind the mountain. He went there and saw a girl quietly doing something. Curious, he approached and asked her a question. Not only did she not answer, but her voice emitted a strong sound wave that caused temporary deafness in Kataru. It did not stop there. She then used red ribbons to stab directly into Kataru's heart, killing him. Startled, Kataru woke up and breathed a sigh of relief, realizing it was just a dream. Still, he could not stop wondering who that girl was. Could she have been his lover from a past life? His fantasy was interrupted by the doorbell. It was his neighbor Reiko, the mother of his friend Kuto. She came to ask Kataru to help look for her daughter, as she had not come home yet. Kataru cheerfully accepted and went out to look for Kutori. The reason he was so calm was because this was not the first time she had gone missing, and he always knew where she hid every time she came home late like this. Following the phone signal, Kataru arrived at a forest near the park. As he walked and called out Kuto's name, a strange animal suddenly flew out of a bush. Kataru stared at it, but could not figure out what it was, so he just ignored it and kept going deeper into the forest to find Couture. He eventually found her sleeping under a tree in the middle of a lake. He approached and called out to wake her, but she would not wake up, as if she were dead. Kataru then resorted to another method. He took out the one thing anyone would react to: money. He rubbed a few coins together, creating a jingling sound. As expected, even while sleeping, Kuta's body reacted to the sound. And just like that, Kataru brought her home. As they arrived, Couture finally woke up with a dazed look on her face, not knowing what had happened. Couture casually talked to her and told her to go inside the house because he was well aware of the gap between their rich and poor status. Right after saying goodbye to Couture, Kotaro suddenly felt like someone was watching him. Confused and uneasy, he ran home and quickly got under the blanket. In the quiet of night, Kataru's bedroom door suddenly opened and something slowly slipped into his blanket. Half asleep, Kotaro felt something touching and then biting his hand, scaring him so much that he jumped out of bed. He thought he just had a wet dream, but the drool still on his ear freaked him out. So he ended up sleeping on the floor. The next morning, the bite mark was still there. On the way to school, Kataru explained that the city he lived in focused on forest growth experiments. The authorities here were entirely dedicated to environmental concerns, so you could say this city was peaceful. As soon as he entered class, Kataru got a sharp glare, like a girl on her period, from a classmate named Yoshino. Kataru was confused about why this well-known school delinquent was looking for him. Angry, Yoshino grabbed him, furious that Kataru had not shown up at the place they agreed to meet. From Kataru's face, it was clear he did not remember, so Yoshino was about to punch him to jog his memory. Kotaro then strained his brain and finally remembered yesterday. Yoshino had challenged him to a fight on the rooftop. The reason was that Kataru kept bothering him, pulling pranks and annoying him to the point of snapping. Hearing that, Kutu accepted Yoshino's challenge and even said, "Don't go home if we do not meet." Now, having forgotten all of that, Kataru made Yoshino so mad, he wanted to send him straight to the physio hospital. Before parting ways, just then, a girl appeared from outside the classroom to stop them from causing trouble. She was Lucia, the student council president. She wanted to punish them both, but the teacher arrived, stopping her because class was about to start. As she returned to her seat, Lucia kept glaring at Kataru. After the first 3 periods, it was break time, and that is when Couture finally walked into class. Meanwhile, Yoshino invited Kataru to go fight and settle their grudge, but the way he spoke was so funny that Kataru could not stop laughing. Having spit fly into his face made Yoshino furious. He was calculating how to punch Kataru in the most satisfying way. When Couture joined in the fun, the 3 of them could be considered friends. Kotori did not have many friends, while Yoshino was a delinquent. As for Kotaro himself, even though he often chats with his classmates, there is no one he is close to, like those 2. At night, Kataru felt like he was experiencing sleep paralysis, but when he pulled back the blanket, It was that same girl from before who had come to bite his hand. The next day at school, he was still thinking about her, lost in thought and not paying attention to where he was going. Kataru tripped over a cardboard box and fell face first to the ground. He still did not know who left that box there when he noticed a girl stuck in a tree nearby. Kataru approached and asked if she was okay. The girl said she was fine, but was currently stuck and could not get down. Kataru offered to help, but she was afraid he would see her underwear. Kataru promised not to look and helped her down. Through their conversation, the girl introduced herself as Chihaya, a new transfer student. Her story sounded a bit hard to believe, but apparently she had been carrying that black cat box up the hill, tripped, and rolled down into this spot. Kataru sympathized with her and offered to help carry the box, but it was absurdly heavy. Yet, Chihaya lifted it with ease, not wanting to lose his manly pride. Kataru insisted on helping her carry it, even though his arms and legs were shaking. Chihaya, worried Kataru might die before making it to school, tried to take it back. The two struggled over the box until Kataru lost his grip and caused Chihaya to fall backward. First, Kataru accidentally peeked at her underwear, then quickly apologized. Embarrassed and furious, Chihaya gathered her things, ran off, and called Kataru a pervert. And the world really is smaller than Kataru thought, because Chia ended up being placed in the same class as him. Like any typical rom-com, she was even assigned the seat right next to his. As soon as she sat down, Kataru mentioned her underwear incident again, making her want to literally smash a desk over his head. Not only Kataru, but even Yoshino was shocked by her terrifying strength. Kataru tried to salvage the situation by introducing himself. Though Chihaya calmed down, she already had a very poor first impression of him. After the teacher announced the upcoming harvest festival next month, Kataru clutched his stomach and rushed to the restroom. Just as he finished and stepped out, he saw a girl trying to blow a whistle at him. Seeing she could not blow it properly, he offered to help. But she ran into the bathroom, cleaned the whistle, then blew it at Kataru again, warning him not to run in the hallway. The girl was Shizeru, a member of the disciplinary committee. The two knew each other because Kataru often caused trouble at school. They chatted for a while, and Shizeru punished him by telling him he had to go eat with her on a free day. Kataru agreed and Pinky promised before saying goodbye to her. Just as that was over, another matter came up, and Al from the journalism club came to find him. Being a reckless reporter, she constantly threw difficult questions at Kataru, like whether he got into the school through the back door, but Kataru calmly answered everything to prove he was clean. Unable to get any information, she left, but accidentally dropped a piece of paper. Curious, Kataru looked at it and realized this girl reporter was seriously dangerous. Inside were tons of important notes. Kataru concluded that he had to be careful of it now to protect his secrets. After school, since Kore had to attend a greeting committee meeting, Kataru turned to Chihaya and asked if she wanted to explore the city with him. He offered to show her around as an apology for the underwear incident. Although she appreciated the offer, she declined, saying there was someone she needed to meet. Chihaya later met a mysterious figure who warned her to be careful with her relationships and not to reveal her identity. In the following days, Kotu kept coming to school exhausted, since that mysterious girl kept showing up every night to bite his hand. After hearing Kotaru's bizarre story, Kotori suggested he see someone Dawn, a person at school known as a witch. Rumor had it she could use real magic and might be able to help him. Hearing that, Kataru pulled out the paper he got from the reckless reporter in Ao, and sure enough, it mentioned a witch named Senri from the occult club. Curious, Kataru invited Kuto to go look for her, and she happily agreed. After school, Kataru asked Yoshino to come along to avoid being seen as a couple, but Yoshino refused, so only the two of them went. Since they had no leads, they started by asking around the school. Even though they ran all over the place, they could not find anything. At that moment, an information broker approached Kataru after hearing that he was looking for the witch. His name was Suzuki, and he came to give Kataru a notebook about the occult club. Thinking this was incredibly helpful, Kataru gratefully hugged Suzuki. Using the notebook as a guide, the two of them found a house in the forest. Inside, Kadaru discovered a room that looked very modern. After checking the surroundings, he confirmed that this was the occult club's base. Before leaving, he left behind a note. That night, the mysterious girl showed up again. Panicking, Kadaru ran around frantically, looking for a way to escape, but neither the front door nor the windows would open. He grabbed a baseball bat and started smashing it against the window, but there was a barrier preventing it from breaking. Then, the girl slowly emerged from under his blanket. Terrified, Kodaru banged on the door while calling out Kuto's name for help. The moment he said Kauto's name, the mysterious girl suddenly disappeared, and Kodaru's soul almost left his body along with her. The next day, Kauto returned to the occult club. His message had been answered with blood written on the desk were the words, "In 2 days, you will die." Kotaru was pretty shocked by this, but then his eyes caught a survey sheet. Everything looked normal until he read one particular question. If you had power, would you change the world or change yourself? After reading it, Kataru fell into deep thought. The school bell rang, signaling the end of the day. On his way home, Chiha ran up to Kadaru. Though they had only known each other for a few days, she already called him by name so casually, which surprised him. Just as Chihaya was about to say something, Couture passed by. Lately, she would been busy with a greening committee. Kadaru took the opportunity to introduce Chihaya to her, and the two girls quickly became familiar with each other. Since she was in a hurry, Couture asked Kadaru to show Chihaya around the city. That seemed to be what Chihaya had wanted to ask him too, so she looked very happy. Before leaving, Couture even teased the two by calling each other by pet names. Then, on his rattling little bicycle, Kotaru took Chihaya on a ride. They passed through narrow alleys and winding streets, the sunset casting golden light over the rice fields. Kadaru brought Chihaya to a very special place, the headquarters of Matril, the world's most famous environmental organization. After finishing their tour, Kotaru gave the bike to Chihaya and told her they would meet again at school tomorrow. That night, Kataru returned to the school, following a mysterious message from the Academy's witch that he received earlier in the afternoon. He went to the classroom she specified, but every time he entered, it led to another classroom instead. The loop continued until it brought him to the library. Tired, Kataru rested near the school's vending machine and bought a can of coffee. Suddenly, that chilling sensation crept up his spine again. The sound of footsteps echoed from the staircase toward him. The mysterious girl appeared once again. As Kataru looked at her, a flood of strange memories came rushing in, memories of being killed by this girl over and over. Panicked, he ran, but she stayed close behind him. The school hallway stretched on endlessly, and the classroom doors would not open. Desperate, Kataru collapsed in defeat. Suddenly, one classroom door slid open. Thinking he would been saved, he ran toward it, only for a bunch of strange creatures to come pouring out, chasing after him. He ran and ran, eventually shaking them off at the stairwell. Looking down, the stairwell seemed just as endless as the hallway. Exhausted, Kataru sat down and took a sip of his coffee, but just as he opened the can, the mysterious girl appeared again. Panicking, Kataru took off running again, dropping the coffee, which ended up in the girl's hand. She took a sip. Meanwhile, Kataru reached a large door. Inside was yet another endless corridor. Voices echoed around him, demanding that he return something, but he did not know what. He tried using acceleration to escape, but then suddenly cancelled the skill and threw a punch at a lurking figure. It was something that resembled a goblin. The creature unexpectedly said it wanted to suck his blood. Then, another being appeared and stopped it. After scolding its friend, the pink creature introduced itself as Pai, and the green one was Gil. Gil kept begging to drink Kataru's blood. Feeling sorry for him, Kataru gave him a little. Then he followed the two of them somewhere unknown. Kataru also learned that these creatures were called trash beings. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed, and when he looked around, Kataru saw a giant monster sleeping nearby. The three of them needed to quietly get out of there. But while flying, Gil suddenly sneezed and woke the monster up. The three of them quickly fled, but the monster only needed one leap to block their path. Just when they did not know what to do, the mysterious girl appeared, holding the can of coffee. The monster swung one of its tentacles at them, and Kataru used acceleration to pull the girl out of the way. accidentally knocking over the coffee can. Enraged, the girl used her red ribbons to slice off one of the monster's tentacles, then continued whipping its head repeatedly. In pain, the monster switched to laser mode, but the girl firmly used a magic circle to deflect the laser and kept attacking. Eventually, she used a devastating move to blow up and destroy the monster. Cal 2, affected by the aftermath of the battle, fell into a crack and mysteriously returned to the school. Right in front of him was a statue with a note in its hand, telling him to bring it to the occult club. There, he finally met the Academy's witch. Without beating around the bush, she introduced herself as Senri, the third-year witch from the rumors. Instead of being surprised that she really existed, Kotu was stunned by her beauty under the moonlight. A moment later, he recounted everything that had happened. Senri did not seem to believe him and just kept playing her game. Getting serious, she asked Kadaru the same question. Kadaru gave an off-topic answer. Would he rather change the world or himself? Yes. He asked her to be serious and help him deal with the mysterious girl who kept biting his hand. She then handed him a charm to exorcise spirits, but it turned out she was a troll-type witch, first giving him a paperclip and calling it a charm, just to tease him. Only after annoying him did she finally hand him the real thing. Since she needed to know whether it actually worked, the two of them scheduled a follow-up meeting. Senri also invited Kataru to join the occult club. That night, in a hazy dream among the clouds, Kataru met a girl who introduced herself as Tomoko, the guardian charm drawn by Senri. She would be there to protect him. Though extremely powerful, she promised to help Kataru sleep peacefully. She even invited him on a date if she managed to survive. Then the mysterious girl came again, and this time the charm flew straight into her mouth, but she just spat it out, then crawled back into Kataru's blanket. However, the charm began to take effect, making the girl uncomfortable enough to leave. The next morning, Kataru cried over Tomoko's departure. He went to school and looked for the supply room door that had led him to the other world the night before, but this time, nothing happened. He went to class and told Kotori about everything he had experienced. Talking creatures, giant monsters, and just like Senri, Kotori told him to lay off the drugs. When Chia entered the class, he told her about the incident too. During the break at the cafeteria, Kata stood at the free coffee counter, complaining about how bad the coffee was, and how upset he was that everyone thought he was on drugs. He felt he had to do something. Then he spotted his close friend, Yoshino, and decided to mess with him. He offered Yoshino a strawberry ice cream cone with hot sauce on it. After being pranked so many times, Yoshino already knew this trick. The two of them kept tossing the cone back and forth until it was swapped with someone else's ice cream. Unluckily, that someone was Luca, but even after eating it, she seemed totally fine. Worried she might suffer some delayed reaction, Kotu grabbed the cone and ate the whole thing himself. Lucia got furious that Kotori had shamelessly put his mouth on the same spoon. It was like an indirect kiss, so she punched him hard enough to send him flying. Clutching his face in pain, Kodaru went outside to cool off. There he happened to see Shizeru napping under a tree. He sat down next to her to rest for a bit. When class was about to start, the alarm woke them both up. Shizeru was surprised to see Kodaru, and they chatted for a moment before saying goodbye. That afternoon, Kataru went to see Senri again. She was surprised that the charm had actually worked, then casually tossed Tomoko into the trash, which made Kataru really regretful. Seeing how indifferent she was, he asked if she did not believe in the occult. She confirmed that she did not. She hated people who believed in the supernatural. Kataru then asked why she even founded the occult club. She said she only took over the occult club, which was on the verge of being disbanded, just because she wanted this room. Hearing that Kataru invited her to play a game, he would prove that the supernatural was real. If nothing happened, he would admit he was on drugs, but if it was real, he wanted her to grant his request. When she asked what it was, Kotaru smirked and said he wanted to touch her chest. She immediately called the police, and Kotaru had to frantically slam the machine to stop her. In the end, she agreed to his game. That night, the mysterious girl came to Kodaru, น้อยกว่าอังมากกว่า S-room again. This time, she was prepared for Tomoko's attack. With no one interfering anymore, she began crawling into Kodaru, น้อยกว่าอังมากกว่า S blanket but Kadaru let out a fart forcing her to leave in a hurry. The next day Kadaru brought Couture to see Senri. He asked her to help them prove supernatural phenomena were real, and besides, Senri looked rich and powerful, so getting close to her could benefit Couture. Hearing that, Couture agreed. The two of them created a website for the occult club, and just as they finished, Chihaya unexpectedly showed up. It turned out she had some acquaintance with Senri. That night, Kotaro had a wet dream about Senrei's melons. When he reached out to touch them in the dream, his hand landed on the mysterious girl. Since the Tomoko charms had run out, she easily slipped into his room. Being unexpectedly groped made her a little flustered, and she left. The next morning, Kadaru asked Senri for more Tomoko charms, and she just pointed to the trash can for him to dig through. As soon as he stepped outside, he ran into the reckless reporter Zhao. She came after hearing Kadaru had joined the occult club and about his game with Senri. Coincidentally, she was also trying to prove supernatural events were real. Zhao challenged Kadaru to a race to see who could find proof first, then left. Kadaru then brought Shizeru to the occult club to help out. She quickly got along with the older girls. Senri started getting annoyed with the chaotic group Kadaru had assembled. Suddenly, Shizeru's phone rang. It was someone from the discipline committee. Kadaru could not help but whisper into her ear, and she repeated exactly what he said, that she loved Kadaru and would follow him forever. Kadaru did not even get the chance to say he was joking before the call ended. Unfortunately, the caller was Lucia, who immediately rushed to the occult club and punched Kadaru. After the punch, Shizuru explained it was just a joke, a very costly one. Shizeru then explained that she had joined to help Kadaru research and prove the supernatural was real. Hearing that, Lucia joined too to protect Shizeru from a pervert like Kadaru. As Kadaru watched everyone chatting together, a thought came to mind. He had always been alone before. I want to become someone. He wanted to change his boring life and believed that everyone here could help him do that. And thus, the occult club began its activities. Outside, the mysterious girl continued watching Kadaru. She felt something, then clutched her heart. In the days that followed, Kadaru woke up feeling very refreshed, thanks to the number of Tomoko charms given to him by the president. The mysterious girl no longer appeared. At school, Couture, representing the Greening Committee, announced the upcoming Harvest Festival. Even though she stumbled through her speech, she managed to finish it. After the meeting, Kadaru invited his close friend Yoshino to join the festival, only to be bluntly rejected. Disappointed, Kadaru went to the occult club to check the website and see if anyone had posted anything. There, he met a stranger who immediately invited him outside. Moments later, Senri stepped out from the bath. Apparently, she had an intense battle the night before and was still a bit tired. Kadaru wanted to ask who this man was, but before Senri could answer, Chihaya entered. When the man saw her, his attitude instantly changed. He brought her the lunch she had forgotten. Being polite, Kadaru introduced himself and asked for the man's name. He introduced himself as Sakuya and said he was Chiha's brother. But Chihaya stopped him from saying that. Senri told her she did not need to hide anything. Sakuya explained that for certain reasons, he was responsible for taking care of Chihaya. Since the two siblings had the same last name, Kadaru found it hard to call them casually. Senri told him to just call Chihaya by her name for simplicity. But the moment her name slipped from his mouth, Sakuya, her sister Khan of a brother, warned him not to call her that. The school bell rang, temporarily putting that issue aside. As they left, Kadaru, being his usual teasing self, slowly repeated Chihaya's name to provoke her brother, who then declared that he would never like Kadaru. Back in class, Kadaru was still thinking about Chihaya's strange brother when the tapping sound of chalk snapped him back to reality. Lucia, the student council president, was working on her assignment. Curious, Kadaru asked Yoshino why Lucia always wore gloves. Yoshino guessed maybe she just did not like touching dirty things, but Kadaru disagreed, saying someone like that would not be fit to be student council president. Instead, He theorized that her gloves were actually sealing away some powerful dark force. Yoshino surprisingly believed him and started playing along. Both of them got scolded by the teacher for disrupting the class. After school at the occult club, Kataru was excited to see someone had posted on their website. Everyone else was excited too, but more about hanging out and eating than about Kataru's ghost stories. When they finally got serious, they read a post about a student spotting a creature called Tsuchinoko. The group started guessing what it looked like or whether it was edible. Senri said it was basically a fat snake. Hard to believe, but Kataru had experienced enough to think it was real. If he could find it, then Senri's boobs would be his. The club then split up to search for the Tsuchino in the school garden. While rummaging through a bush, Kataru felt something soft and round. Thinking it was the fat snake, he pulled it out only to discover it was Lucia's butt. Naturally, a beatdown followed. At that moment, an actual fat snake appeared. Kataru charged at it, but Chiha effortlessly caught it with her strength, only for it to be dragged away. Not giving up, Chihaya pulled back and revealed a strange woman trying to reel the snake in. Calmly, the woman introduced herself as a part-time salesperson and part-time exotic creature hunter. Though she was technically a hunter, her main job was sales. She just did this on the side to fund her luxury shopping and travel. She had taken the Sucho job because someone had posted a request on the occult club website. After saying her piece, she ran off to work. Since lunch break was almost over, the group disbanded. Luckily, Kataru still managed to buy a bun to snack on. He spotted Shizeru also getting ready to eat outside. Remembering his promise, Kodaru went to eat lunch with her. During their meal, Kodaru noticed Shizeru's eye patch and asked if she had some sort of illness. Shizeru hesitated, but said she would tell him her secret only if he promised not to tell anyone. When he agreed, she removed her patch to reveal heterochromatic eyes. It seemed she wore the patch because she did not want people staring at her. Kataru complimented her, saying her eyes were beautiful, making her blush. After lunch, Kataru grabbed a canned coffee and lit it, prompting Lucia to suddenly appear and make him sort all the trash. Not only that, he had to rinse every can before sorting them. After a long cleaning session, Kotaru lay on the grass exhausted. Lucia told him it was punishment for groping her before, then gave him a passionate lecture about environmental protection. Only after she finished did she realize she had gone too far. With his usual cheeky tone, Kotaru started praising her as an amazing person like no other. He kept flattering her until Lucia got flustered and punched him across the sky. Kotaru had to rest in the infirmary until evening before dragging his body home. While wandering around, he saw the mysterious girl being chased by something. Wanting to confirm a few things, Kotaru used his acceleration ability and gave chase. He leapt across rooftops to follow her. In reality, his power was rewriting his own abilities. For instance, acceleration was actually him rewriting his body structure to enhance his physical muscles, but the downside was once enhanced, his body could not revert, making it hard to keep his powers hidden. Still, without upgrading, he could not catch her. He soon lost sight of both her and whatever was chasing her. In the still silence, a stranger suddenly appeared behind Kotaru. Mistaking him for a hunter, the man summoned a wolf to attack. Unable to fight back, Kotaru relied on his God-given legs and ran for his life, diving into a train tunnel to escape. Barely able to catch his breath, the wolf quickly found him. He kept running, climbing through a hole that led to a mountain. The wolf caught up and lunged at him. In a daze, Kotaru thought he was going to die, but the wolf was suddenly slain by someone. When he came to, Kotaru found himself with two men at a roadside diner. They said they had found him in a park. When he mentioned the monster, they responded calmly and started asking questions. One of them, a gentleman who introduced himself as Isaka, explained that a few unidentified monsters had been showing up in this green city lately, so perhaps what Kotaru saw was one of them. As he chatted with the two, Kodaru almost forgot about the terrifying chase earlier. Driven by his desire to fondle Senrei's boobs, he asked more about these strange creatures. Isaka told him if he was curious, he could visit his antique shop in the city. Suddenly, Shizuru appeared from behind. She had not noticed Kodaru until he greeted her. Turns out she was a regular at this place. A while later, he told her about everything that had just happened and showed her the scratch on his arm. Oddly, she could not see anything. When he looked again, the wound was gone. Confused and in disbelief, Kodaru could not accept it, because his powers were supposed to be permanently engraved into his body. Soon, a few more guests arrived. They looked like civil servants, but not quite. After finishing their meal, Kodaru walked Shizuru home. On his way back, he thought about how tough her life might be and wondered what he could do to help her. From behind, Sakuya showed up. He'd just bought ice cream for Chihaya. After mocking Kodaru a bit, he declared that Kodaru was now his enemy. The next day at noon, Kodaru had lunch with Shizuru again, then rushed to the occult club to tell Senrei that he would found someone who knew a lot about mysterious phenomena. He dragged the group to yesterday's park where the ramen stall had been, but it was gone. Confused, he called Shuzaru to ask since she was a regular there, but she did not pick up. Lucia tried too, but got nothing. Everyone else gave up and left, leaving Kodaru to search on his own. He headed to an autonomous district, looking for the antique shop. While looking around, he bumped into a red-haired man who seemed surprised to see him. When he heard Kodaru's name, the man asked if he was really living like a normal person. Now, seeing Kodaru, น้อยกว่าอัง มากกว่า S, confused expression. The man warned him to watch out for some shady punks that had recently popped up. After parting ways, Kodaru wandered into an alley, and sure enough, ran into the exact group the red-haired guy had mentioned. They noticed from his uniform that he went to the same school as Yoshino. When Kotaru mentioned his best friend, they got wary because he dared to call Yoshino by name. Apparently, in this autonomous district, Yoshino was a legend who took down a 100 guys on his own, a total badass. They called Yoshino to confirm if Kotu was really a friend. After the call, their attitude completely changed, and they treated him with respect. With their help, Kodaru finally reached the antique shop. Inside, he reunited with Isaka, and Shizeru was there too. He sat down and asked why she did not answer her phone. Turns out, she had turned it off to save battery. Isaka noticed how close the two seemed, more like friends than upperclassmen and underclassmen. Kodaru told the story of how he first met Shizuru. She had gotten lost on her way to the discipline committee, and he helped her find the way. Thanks to his teasing nature, they quickly became friends. After that, they got back to the main topic. Kodaru wanted to know more about the creatures that Isaka and the ramen guy had seen. Isaka showed him some pictures he had taken, but they were too blurry and did not resemble the two creatures Kodaru had previously encountered. Still, even if it was disappointing, it was something. In the evening, the two said goodbye and headed home. Kodaru also got to keep a few photos, and Isaka gave him a business card so he could visit anytime. On their way back, the two chatted, and Shizeru was genuinely happy that Kodaru had found the motivation to pursue something, even if it was all because of Senrei's luscious melons. At least he had changed a lot from who he was before. Before heading home, Shizeru stopped by a bakery to ask for leftover breadcrumbs that would be her food for the next few days. A few steps later, she also dropped by a thrift store. The next day, Kodaru tossed a photo to Senrei, but it still was not enough to convince her to pause her Valorant match and listen. Meanwhile, Chizuru pulled out a CD she had bought the day before. She wanted to listen to a song, but did not have a player, so she asked Kodaru for help. At home, Kotu brought out his old music player, the one he used to listen to whenever his parents scolded him for being disobedient. He decided to give it to Shizeru, and the girl happily promised to treasure it. In the days that followed, Kodaru, น้อยกว่าอัง มากกว่า S nights remained peaceful, no longer disturbed by the mysterious girl. However, he could not shake the unease about that night. Why was she running? And who was that man? Whoever he was dangerous. Kodaru sighed, thinking the peaceful days he expected were never really meant for him. Suddenly, the classroom door slid open. It was the mysterious girl, but only Kodaru could see her. Everyone else was puzzled. wondering why the door opened on its own. She walked up and bit Kataru's hand, causing him to let out some strange noises that gave Yoshino goosebumps. After feeding, the girl simply left, taking his saliva-covered hand with her. Kataru rushed off to find Sini, but instead ran into Shizeru, who was happily enjoying the music player. Coincidentally, she had something to tell him, and since Kataru prioritized lolis over busty older sisters, he went with Shizuru because he had given her the player. She had something she wanted to show him. She took him to meet a teacher named Nishi, who drove them to a nearby hill. Before leaving, she told Kataru to believe what Shizuru was about to reveal. The girl then led him to a house, and without a word, they sat there waiting. They waited until late afternoon, and eventually a couple returned home. They asked why the two were there, but instead of answering, Shizuru simply complimented their flower garden and pulled Kataru away just as the couple's child came outside. Curious, Kataru asked who they were, and the girl told him they were her family. Hearing that stunned Kataru, because they did not even recognize her. Then Shizuru suddenly stopped, poked his nose, and asked for her name. To his horror, Kataru could not remember it. Shizuru explained it was because of her ability, but somehow Kataru managed to force the name Shizuru out, making her smile with joy. She then revealed how, when she first discovered her power, she could not control it, and accidentally caused her parents and younger sister to forget her. She explained that her family used to be happy together. Though they were not wealthy, they had fun. Her favorite memories were grilling fish with her parents, going on outings, and gardening. One fateful day, a creature attacked their home. That happiness did not last. She was injured in one eye, and her father was stabbed in the back by debris while protecting his wife and daughter. Amid the chaos, a special task force appeared, eliminated the threat, and evacuated them. After that, Shizuru's power began to manifest, and her life steadily fell apart. Because of her heterochromia, she was bullied at school. Her family could no longer grill fish because her mother had developed a phobia of fire after the attack. Then, when her ability was discovered, a man came offering a large sum of money to transfer her into their organization. She agreed and visited home every weekend, but the money caused friction between her parents. Though she tried to stop their arguments, she failed. Believing it was all her fault, she wished for things to go back to how they were, and that wish triggered her power. From then on, her family no longer remembered her. Hearing all this, Kataru felt a deep sadness for the girl who had endured so much pain. He asked why he could still remember her, and she replied it was because she had learned to control her ability. They returned as night fell. On the way back, Kataru asked Nishi if she was also part of the organization. Though she did not answer directly, she gave a subtle nod that confirmed it. Prying further, Kotaho asked if powers were something people were born with. Nishi gave a vague response about the organization, believing that power is born from drugs. Kataru recalled the moment when Shizeru looked at his wounded hand. Perhaps that was when it all started. Nishi did not let him ask further questions, saying knowing too many secrets would not do him any good. She revealed that Shizuru actually had a large sum of money, but the girl lived very frugally, possibly because she wanted to buy a house, something her father once dreamed of giving to their family. Hearing that made Kataru even more curious about the small girl. He was then driven back home. The next day, Kataru found himself in a difficult situation when Lucia refused to return a baseball that had accidentally landed in the flower bed. Their argument was loud enough that the rest of the club came over. Kataru quickly returned the ball to the baseball team. Chihaya criticized Lucia for being overly obsessed with cleanliness. Just throwing the ball back would not make her dirty. Lucia snapped back, saying she did not do anything wrong and did not deserve to be scolded. She clarified it was not the ball she did not want to touch, it was the flowers. Then she shouted, pushed Chihaya to the ground and ran off. Kataru chased after her and was met with Lucia's tear-streaked face. Even she did not want to be like this. That summer, there was a girl who awakened a strange power. Everything she touched turned to ash. Back to the present. Thanks to the request box Shizeru had set up, the club received a new mystery. Kataru read the letter to the group. It was about Asahi Haruka. At an orphanage, strange events started occurring after Asahi arrived. Windows broke on their own, pets died, followed by teachers and children, and eventually the orphanage shut down. The letter continues saying that 7 years ago, a boy from that orphanage transferred to elementary school 7, the same school at the letter's author. Note, a few days later, the boy told the writer about Asahi, and not long after, he died from a serious illness. Some believe it was a curse for disturbing Asa's sleep. His name was Kishida. Kadaru figured if this happened 7 years ago, Kishida would have been their age, and he remembered that his best friend Yoshino also went to elementary. No, 7. He decided to call and ask him. Meanwhile, Kadaru checked in on the tension between Chihaya and Lucia. They were still mad at each other. After club activities, Kadaru thought resolving the girls' conflict should come first. Seeing Shizuru in the courtyard, he approached her and told her what had happened. Shizuru stayed quiet for a moment, then asked if Kadaru wanted to know Lucia's secret. She would tell him, but only on the condition that he remained Lucia's friend until death. That heavy question left Kadaru deep in thought until late afternoon. For now, he put the matter aside and called Yoshino. At that moment, Yoshino was helping an elderly lady cross the street. When Kadaru mentioned the names Kishida and Asahi, Yoshino refused to say anything, not wanting to disturb the dead. He warned Kotu to be careful if he insisted on digging further. If he heard glass shatter, he should run for his life. The next day at school, Yoshino gave Kadaru an old contact list, saying it might help. Kadaru then secretly followed Lucia to the copy room and asked her to help duplicate the list. He did it quickly and slipped away, but Lucia chased after him to return a paper he would left behind. Strangely, Kadaru did not remember printing it. "Don't wake me up." A line appeared on it. The moment he read it, a sealed window cracked and shattered. Lucius suspected Kadaru was up to his usual tricks. To avoid being misunderstood, Kadaru told her the full story about Asahi. After hearing it, Lucia began to believe that the cracked glass might really have been Asahi's doing. However, Kadaru did not think she was evil. He believed Asahi might be carrying some deep sorrow and wanted to prove she was not malicious. He asked Lucia to help him clear the girl's name. Their handshake surprised Lucia. She had not done that with anyone in a long time. On the way home, it started raining. Lucia opened her umbrella, and just then a loud explosion went off. The street light in front of her burst, and beneath it stood Asahi. Seeing her triggered a painful memory in Lucia, making her scream and clutch her face. Meanwhile, Kadaru was being burred by former victims of Asahi over the phone for asking about her. Some even said the curse was not over yet. Every lead seemed to end in a dead end. At this point, Kadaru had no choice but to rely on Lucia, because he had already asked her to contact the girls listed in the directory. The next day, Lucia did not show up at school. Kadaru tried contacting her but could not reach her. Just then, the nosy reporter Jono appeared. She came after hearing that Kadaru was involved in something strange. She handed him a report she had written about Asahi. Zhao claimed she had no ill intent. She simply wanted to help others who were also chasing supernatural phenomena. She then told Kadaru he owed her one and left. Kadaru opened the report and read through it. Based on the information inside, he tracked down someone who had also claimed to encounter Asahi. The man played a recording of breaking windows and told a few strange stories, but it turned out he had exaggerated everything for effect. Nothing had actually happened to him. Disappointed, Kadaru returned home in the rain. The only useful thing he learned was that the orphanage where Vasahi had stayed was called Santa Broya Peace Garden. On the way home, Kadaru suddenly felt a chill down his spine, as if someone was holding his hand. A voice whispered, "Don't wake me up." Startled, he quickly pulled away. Looking closely, it was Lucia. She fainted after repeating those same words. When she regained consciousness, she was at Kautu's house. He explained that he had undressed her to prevent her from catching a cold. Lucia thanked him, then walked over to a potted plant. She plucked a leaf, and it instantly crumbled to ash. This, she said, was the power of Ace's curse. Kadaru panicked, thinking that his investigation had brought the curse upon her. He remembered what Shizeru had said, that Lucia had once been in an accident as a child, and afterward, animals and plants would wither and die around her. Though it had been unintentional, Lucia had always blamed herself, and since then, she had believed her hands were filthy. She became afraid to touch any living being. The only thing that helped her was a pair of gloves. She thought, as long as she wore them, no one would be harmed. But reality did not change. She truly believed she was dirty. Kodaru tried to comfort her, but she pushed him away. During the struggle, some of her power unintentionally touched Kodaru's arm. After taking Lucia home, Kodaru visited the orphanage, which was now restricted due to high toxic waste. Ignoring the warning, he went inside unaware that he was being watched by security cameras. He entered the church, where he found several old photos from 7 years ago, including pictures of Keshida and finally Asahi. But the moment he looked at her picture, it shattered. Kataru turned and said, "It is nice to see you again, Asahi, or rather Musha." He had already figured it out. It was thanks to the contact list. One name, Waka, had moved, so the address was outdated. Yet, when Kataru called that number, the curse still activated there. The only people who had access to that list were his best friend, Yoshino, himself, and the person he deliberately allowed to see at Lucia. Lucia admitted that she had broken the glass and tried to warn Kodaru to stop investigating, but his obsession with Senrei's chest was just too strong. Kodaru said he just wanted to know the truth. Lucia revealed her power. Her hands could emit a toxin capable of shattering glass and even killing people without contact. She had tried to stop everyone from digging further, to prevent her shameful past from being exposed. The whole surrounding area was covered in the poison she released. As Lucia spoke, Kataru began to collapse. He had been poisoned when her power accidentally touched him earlier. Lucia panicked and apologized, but Kataru was the one who said sorry. If he had been stronger, she would not have had to suffer so much. To avoid dying from the toxin, Kataru rewrote the structure of his own cells, making his body resistant to Lucia's poison. A few moments later, he recovered completely, leaving Lucia stunned. He did not explain his power, but simply took her hand and declared that he would be her friend, so she should not be sad or run away anymore, otherwise she would end up alone forever. And besides, she was not alone. She still had the occult club with her. Every word from him reached her heart. Luca broke down in tears and hugged Kataru tightly, sobbing as she finally released all the sorrows she had bottled up for so long. Just outside, a team of people in orange suits rushed in. Lucia told Kataru not to worry, this was her team. The leader then appeared. It was Miss Nishi. Afterward, Miss Nishi took Kataru to the hospital for a checkup. Ignoring the fact that he was somehow immune to Lucia's power, Kodaru needed to know the truth about Nishi and the organization behind her. She revealed the name Guardian, a group that gathers individuals with superpowers for one purpose, to protect the Earth. Right now, the Green City was in danger, because someone was in possession of a key, a being whose existence could determine the fate of the world. Guardian referred to this being as the key. Its presence had deep implications, even affecting people's faith and belief systems. However, another radical group called Gaia was targeting the key. Unlike Guardian, Gaia aimed to return the planet to its original state. Using the key, Nishi stopped there, warning Kataru to keep everything secret. If he did not, he might vanish from the Earth altogether. Kataru agreed on one condition. Embarrassed, Lucia scolded him while Nishi left the two alone. Lucia must make him a bento. Only a few days later, Kataru had fully recovered and returned to school. One day after exiting the restroom and still wondering what to have for lunch, he was suddenly attacked from behind and knocked unconscious. When he woke up, everything was pitch black. His eyes were blindfolded and his limbs tightly bound. He struggled until a familiar voice, Lucius, gently told him to calm down. But before releasing him, she asked Kataru to promise something. Though he did not understand the situation at all, Kataru agreed. Lucia then removed the blindfold and untied him, and he was stunned. Speechless, Lucia was dressed in a maid outfit, holding a lunch tray she had made herself. Kataru was frozen in shock. He had only joked about it days ago, yet she actually took it seriously. Blushing fiercely, Lucia turned her face away. Kataru reassured her with soft compliments, praising the outfit and her hard work. But the more he spoke, the more embarrassed Lucia became, until she could not take it anymore and smacked him out of flustered frustration. They sat down and ate lunch together. Kadaru praised her cooking, and Lucia breathed a sigh of relief. She had poured her whole heart into it with help from Shizuru, because Lucia herself could not taste anything due to her body's toxicity. Shizuru had made a special medicine so she could help, and the two became close. At school and in Guardian, Shizuru was Lucia's only real friend. Hearing that, Kautu corrected her, reminding Lucia she also had him and the rest of the occult club. Lucia hesitated, still feeling awkward because of her past conflict with Chihaya. Kadaru held her hand and told her things would be okay. He would be with her. After lunch, Lucia visited the club room to apologize to Chihaya, who coincidentally had been planning to do the same. Both girls bowed their heads, asking forgiveness. In the end, they made peace, but Chihaya could not help asking why Lucia kept clinging to Kadaru. Lucia proudly answered that he was her friend. Maybe after being alone for so long, she no longer knew how to maintain proper distance. Seeing this, Shizuru also clung to Kadaru, staking her claim, but Lucia clearly had the upper hand in certain areas. With that, Kadaru officially announced the occult club was back in action. Today's mystery: a legendary sword said to be stuck somewhere in the Green City. Only a true hero could pull it out. With just that bit of info, they set off to investigate. The club went to a candy store where the sword had been stuck for 10 years, with no one able to pull it free. Suddenly, Yoshino appeared claiming that he had trained for that very sword for 10 years. But all that training was effortlessly defeated by Chihaya's brute strength, who yanked the sword out in seconds. Even more shocking, the sword broke instantly. Mystery solved. Next, they tackled a strange noise reported from an abandoned house. Entering cautiously, they found nothing strange until Chihaya tripped, prompting Kadaru to rush over. In the process, he accidentally uncovered a stash of indecent books. Chihaya screamed and socked him in the face. By chance, Kadaru fell into a box containing a stuffed animal that played music, explaining the eerie sound. Mystery number 2 solved. The third story was about a boogeyman screaming in the school at midnight. The whole group snuck past the tabloid girl Zhao and went to investigate the source of the sound, only to find it was just Kodaru's friend, who always trained in the classroom late at night. With that, the third mystery was solved. A few days later, Kodaru discovered some new clues in the forest. To outsiders, it looked like a group picnic, and Sakuya promised to prepare food for everyone except Kadaru. While Senri thought this was unreliable, she trusted Kadaru instead. He asked if anyone wanted to join, but no one seemed interested except Shizeru. Lucia said the girl did not need to go just to please Kadaru, and Shizeru replied she was not going just for that. So Kadaru decided the club would all go together that weekend. On Saturday, Kadaru rushed to the meeting point. He was the only one who showed up late. Everyone was excited, especially about Couture bringing her guard dog, which turned out to be the strange hedgehog-like creature from before. Couture had taken it in and named it Moth. Though it clearly did not look like a dog, everyone insisted it did. To prove its strength, Moth spun around and sent Kaukia flying. The group then entered the forest. Moth quickly located a nearby river. Checking the map, Kadaru suggested they cut through the woods and follow the river downstream. Kotori wanted to try drinking the water, but everyone warned against it unless boiled. However, Shizeru drank it and confirmed it was clean. As they went deeper into the woods, the air became harder to breathe. Shizeru spotted a two-headed creature and ran after it, followed by Lucia. Moth also picked up a scent and led the others forward. They were shocked to discover a strange toxic dump. Lucia and Shizeru rushed back to warn everyone not to go any further, as the substance seemed potentially deadly. It could very well be the source of environmental pollution. Shizeru pulled out the two-headed rat she had caught earlier. It had been alive, but upon contact with the waste, it died, proving the strange creatures were likely mutations caused by this pollution. Gautu hesitated, unsure if he should report this in his investigation. After they buried the rat, the group began heading back. Along the way, Kotaro noticed a strangely familiar tree. Suddenly, the mysterious girl appeared again. Kotaro immediately gave chase and managed to catch up to her. She was holding a wooden snake. Suddenly, a wave of strange memories surged through Kotaro. Being embraced by a girl as he died, being killed by a mysterious white-haired girl, it all felt unnervingly real. Breathing heavily in panic, he was soon found by the girls, but the mysterious one was gone. Kotaro said nothing, and they all returned. That night, Kotaro wandered to the occult club room and found Senri still there. Unable to sleep, he had gone there to write his report. Although he wrote it, he decided not to publish it. They discussed the damage humans had done to the environment. Senri stated that one day, the Earth might reach a point of no return if this destruction continued. But Kotaro still believed the Earth could survive because there are always people fighting to protect it. When asked for a solution to environmental pollution, Kotaro said it should be the factories that are removed. Senri replied, there was an easier way. Remove the ones causing the problem, humans. The next day, which was Sunday, Kotaro lay in bed, still thinking about his conversation with Senri. Just then, Jay now called. The tabloid girl had caught wind of the group's trip into the woods and the toxic site. Coincidentally, she had once investigated that area. She said she had important information that might help Kotaro, and she would give it to him after checking the toxic lake herself that day. But a few days later, one of Zhao's friends came to say she had gone missing. A search team was dispatched, but they only found her backpack. Days passed since her disappearance, with no sign of life or death. At the occult club, Kotaro received shocking news. The school had decided to disband their club, likely due to the incident involving Zhao. Shizeru felt deeply sorry for her, saying Zhao was a kind person who always gave her candy in exchange for information about Kotaro. Back to the matter of the occult club being disbanded. Senri only agreed to temporarily suspend activities for a while because of that tabloid girl. In the past, Zhao had always gone around spreading the idea that she was challenging Kotaro, and Kotaro was also the last person to speak with her. All consequences stemmed from Zhao's poor decisions, and her disappearance was the result. But people always need someone to blame, and Kotaro had been chosen to take the fall. Senri had already foreseen that disbandment would be inevitable. If they resisted, the school would simply begin targeting them one by one. Kotaro refused to accept bearing the consequences of something he did not do. He tried to convince everyone to protect this place because of all the memories they had made there, and because it had taken him a long time to find somewhere he truly belonged. He did not want to lose it. His speech touched everyone's hearts, and they decided they would not give up. Henry said that if they could just find Zhao, there might still be a way to save the club. The current search party had already given up, assuming Zhao was dead, and the school was just waiting for the right moment to announce her status and shut the club down, so they had to act fast to find her. The group gathered their gear and headed deep into the forest to search for any signs of Zhao. After a while, Shizuru spotted what looked like a possible trace of her. It did not seem like much, but they continued following it. However, after a certain distance, the trail began to fade. Shizeru analyzed the pattern and guessed that Zhao had tried to cover her tracks, raising the question of who she was trying to hide from. Everyone began tossing out theories. Eventually, Senri grew tired and said she needed to use the bathroom, and the other girls followed her, leaving Kotaro alone to wait. Minutes passed, 30 of them, but no one came back. Worried they had gotten lost, Kotaro went searching for them and along the way spotted a mysterious man. Suspicious, Kotaro followed him, but lost him in a thicket. Then, a pack of wolves like before suddenly surrounded and attacked him. Desperate to survive, Kotaro punched the leader wolf and made a break for it. Despite rewriting his body to improve physical strength, he could not outrun them and was quickly caught, pinned, and bitten. In despair and on the brink of death, Cortus screamed as he pushed his body to its limit. Suddenly, a set of claws sprouted from his arm and tore apart the leader wolf, whose body vanished in an instant. The rest of the wolves ran off in fear. Still in shock, Kotaro examined the claws, which shattered into pieces as soon as he touched them. With no time to rest, he stood, and went to search for the others. Suddenly, he heard Lucia screaming. Rushing to the scene, he found Lucia and Shizeru surrounded by monsters. As the creatures attacked, the two girls pulled weapons from their backpacks. Lucia had a katana and Shizeru a pair of daggers. The two of them worked in sync to cut down the enemies one by one. Kataru tried to help, but his body would not cooperate. Shizeru fell back to heal him, while Lucia held the line. During the treatment, Shizuru explained that the monsters were controlled by Gaia, a group opposing Guardian. They were likely searching for the key that Nishi had mentioned. Once she was finished healing, Shizuru asked Kodaru to find the others, while she and Lucia handled the creatures. Trusting them, Kodaru ran off into the night until he found Chihaya, who almost swung a tree branch at him. Thinking he was a bear, wasting no time, Kodaru gathered them all and told the three to escape immediately. But then a massive monster appeared overhead. Kodaru urged them to run, saying Shizuru and Lucia would be waiting outside. The monster lashed out with a tentacle toward Kotori. Kodaru intercepted it with his arm and told her to go. As the three ran, Kotaru engaged the monster. The tentacle clung to his arm, sucking blood and dragging him. In pain, he struggled until his claws returned and sliced the tentacle off. Even with a weapon, Kotaru could not withstand the monster's furious blows and soon began to lose strength. Then once again, the mysterious girl appeared and saved Kotaru, cutting the monster in half with just one strike. She then approached him. Some fragmented memories of her killing him flashed through his mind, making Kotaru panic and prepare to attack her, but Kyuto stopped him. Seeing that, the girl left without letting Kodaru question how she was able to see the mysterious girl. Kotori pulled him away to regroup with the others. However, the atmosphere had turned tense. Shizeru and Lucia were now confronting Senri and Chiha. The reason was that when Senri and Chihaya's group had arrived earlier, the monsters had not attacked them, and they had not seemed frightened at all. Senri then revealed the truth. She was a member of Gaia, enemies of the Guardian Hunters. When Lucia charged forward, Sakuya appeared to support her. He said they were done here and took the two girls away. Carter, exhausted, collapsed and passed out. The next day, he woke up in his house. When he arrived at school, all the girls had vanished and none of them answered his calls. His best friend noticed something was off and asked him, but Kotaru kept it to himself. Just like that, everyone disappeared from his life. Days passed and Zhao was still missing, the others still gone, and Kotaruน้อยกว่าอังมากกว่า S life returned to being dull. One thing that puzzled him was why even Kuto had stopped coming to school, although he said nothing. Yoshino could tell something had happened and told him that if he ever needed help, just ask. Back home, Kotaru began reflecting on his power. It seemed to be more than just physical enhancement. He concentrated and summoned the claws again, testing them out, finding they were extremely sharp. He began training with them. Suddenly, the mysterious girl appeared again. She said something about the situation being extremely urgent before collapsing. The next day in class, the teacher announced that Jay now had been found. She was in hospital in a neighboring town with hazy memory. Kota figured her family would likely move away after this incident. While deep in thought, he met Shizuru again. She had come to say goodbye, likely for the last time. Then she vanished, and Kodaru could do nothing but stand there and watch. He kept going to school and returning home alone. One night, he came home to find his belongings messed up and a red ribbon trailing up to his room. Upstairs, he encountered the mysterious girl again. She introduced herself as Kagari, and that was all she remembered. She had no memory beyond that, only that she had an important mission tied to Kodaru. Simply put, she needed his help. The next morning, Kodaru was woken up by Kagari biting his arm. He got ready for school. Since Kagari still did not know who she was or what she needed to do, Kodaru let her explore the internet and said they would talk more after school. But when he got to class, Kagari had already shown up in a school uniform and was attending his class. She even picked a fight with Yoshino, so Kodaru pulled her aside to talk. Kagari had already studied everything online and now wanted to attend school with him. She even had the ability to change her clothes at will. With no other option, Kotaru showed her around the school. First up, the cafeteria, Kagari was not interested in the food at all, and just fixated on drinking coffee, even yelling at the staff for more, forcing Kataru to drag her away. They went to the park and coincidentally ran into Zhao. Surprisingly, she did not remember anything. Kataru sat down with her and explained everything, but it still did not bring her memory back. She then pulled a memory card from her pocket. It was likely the reason she came to find him. She gave it to him, saying it might be useful. Before they parted, Kataru reminded her of the game they had promised to play, saying she had won. Back at home, Kataru began exploring the contents of the memory card. Meanwhile, the two opposing factions were moving. Gaia, shockingly, was actually the Green Martel conglomerate. They held a meeting to choose their new saint. Afterward, Sanri met with Chihaya and a child. She reported the meeting's outcome and said both factions were now targeting Kadaru. As for Couture, her whereabouts were unknown. On the Guardian side, Shizuru and Lucia had finally caught the monster responsible for the tragedy that destroyed Shizeru's family. After exacting their revenge, the two regrouped with Asaka and Nishi, having also eliminated the one who controlled the beast. The four of them discussed how Gaia was planning to send a large number of monsters into the city during the upcoming harvest festival. Sakuya had captured Penny and Gil because the two dared to ride birds and drop poop on Chihaya's head earlier, and now he needed them to atone for their mistake. As for the memory card, Jay had discovered the truth about Gaia and believed the organization existed right in the heart of the Green City. The journalist also revealed that all supernatural events and dangers were caused by Gaia. While Kadaru was watching this, Kagari jumped in demanding to watch movies on the laptop, but was instead drawn in by the images in the files. Kadaru then received a message from Couture after many days of silence. She said she had been sick and would return to school soon. Overjoyed, Kadaru replied, unaware that Couture was actually building an army in the forest for some unknown purpose. On their day off, Kadaru took Kagari shopping for clothes, but he did not know that all three factions were watching him. First were the two trash creatures sent by Gaia, second was Katari's moth, and third was the red-haired man from Guardian. Kadaru took Kagari to an antique shop to meet Asaka, but the man was no longer there. Kagari then turned to Kadaru and told him they were being followed. Hearing that, Kadaru realized and quickly dragged Kagari into an alley to shake off all three factions. He ran into Yoshino's gang, and after explaining the situation, Yoshino agreed to help. He even showed Kadaru a shortcut to the next town. Before leaving, Kotu thanked him and told him about Kuturi's condition. Meanwhile, the three factions collided. Red Hair got beaten to a pulp by Moth and the two trash creatures, and then Yoshino's gang came in and hit him a few more times. Back with Kagari, Kadaru had successfully escaped with her, but she started acting up from coffee withdrawal, clinging to him and making weird noises that drew public attention. He had to run to buy her coffee. At the vending machine, Kautu ran into Lucia again. He quickly asked if she was okay, but she was no longer the club president she once was. Lucia frankly told him that both Guardian and Gaia were monitoring him and Kuturi, and if neither of them showed anything unusual, the organizations would stop watching. After saying that, she walked away. After a day of wreaking havoc in the city, Kataru and Kagari rested in the park. After finishing her 10th can of coffee, Kataru brought Kagari home. Unexpectedly, the blonde guy from before showed up again. Curious how Kataru had managed to kill his monster, Kataru kicked him by surprise, but the guy summoned two dogs to attack. However, Kagari instinctively destroyed them. Furious, the blonde decided to act personally, using his power to heat the surroundings. Just in time, Moth showed up and attacked. Kadaru used the opportunity to grab Kagari and escape. Back home, before he could rest, Kadaru found that someone had broken in. Kagari ran around nervously searching the house, but was relieved to find her online coffee delivery still safe. Kodaru found that Penny and Gil had broken in and locked them up to interrogate them. When they refused to talk, he shook a box to torment them. At that moment, Moth appeared again, and Kuta called Kadaru. She wanted him to meet her in the forest. Kito had been watching him through Moth's eyes, and after learning that both Guardian and Gaia were targeting him, she decided it was time to tell him the truth. Kadaru and Kagari followed Moth into the forest. They arrived at a strange place, and Kuri suddenly appeared from a portal and pulled them in. Inside was a secret base, full of creatures, building something. Kagari felt the place was familiar, and Couture confirmed it should be. This was where Kagari was born. Kotori admitted she had always seen Kagari but never said anything. Overjoyed that Kautor knew about her, Kagari smiled, even telling Kadaru to go home because he was no longer needed. They all sat down, and Couture explained that all the creatures there had been created by her. She had built the space to protect the key, but she was not part of Guardian or Gaia. She called her group the Druids. She told Kadaru a story about a person who once controlled monsters and sealed their knowledge within a mistletoe tree, leaving it for future generations to use that power correctly. 10 years ago, Kotori's family was in a traffic accident. Her parents died. Scared, Kotori wandered into the forest and encountered the mistletoe tree, which gave her knowledge and turned her into a druid. And her mission since then has been to protect the key, or more precisely, Kagari is the key. Kotori added that Gaia and Guardian were still fighting over Kagari, and although both factions shared the same goal of protecting the earth, she led Kataru to the mistletoe tree, where this light represented the earth's energy. Kagari was born here in human form, and Kotori also relied on this energy to control monsters. Normally, an ordinary person would need to use their lifespan to do so. At that moment, Kagari heard a song which came from the Mater Corporation, where Senri and the leader were listening to a symphony. After the performance ended, both Gaia and Guardian began preparing for their final battle. Meanwhile, the two trash creatures had escaped their cage and reported the location to Sakuya. The very next day, he arrived not to start a fight or capture Kagari, but to offer his help in protecting the key. Sakuya had been ordered by Senri to monitor Kadaru and his activities, so essentially, he came to act as a butler. Hearing that, Kadaru asked him to train him in combat. The man agreed, but warned that it would be harsh. In the following days, Sakuya handled cleaning, cooking, and spent time training Kadaru, who did nothing but train repeatedly under Kagari's watchful eyes. One day, Kotori announced they were out of food since she had only stocked supplies for herself and Kagari. Sakuya suggested they go shopping since the harvest festival had just begun. And so far, neither Gaia nor Guardian had made any moves. After finishing their shopping, Sakuya brought Kadaru and Kagari to meet Senri again. She revealed that she had become the Holy Maiden of the Mater Corporation, which publicly presented itself as an environmental organization, but was in fact waging a war over the key. Today, she wanted to meet Kagari and ask why the earth had taken human form to appear before mankind. Kagari simply replied that she was trying to rediscover herself, then offered Senri a can of coffee, saying that after living here for a while, she found humans to be truly fascinating. Hearing this, Senri promised to help Kadaru as much as she could, then began to leave, but Kotu stopped her, reminding her of the deal they made, that he would get to touch her chest. With Kagari present, proving the supernatural was real, he tossed her a coffee can to distract her and pinned Senri to the wall, but he stopped just before doing anything, saying he would save it for when they met again at school. Meanwhile, in the forest, the blonde man had discovered the secret base through Pai and Gil. Inside, Kataru was still training. Over with Guardian, Lucia had secretly entered the forest to search for Kuchia. After seeing a report that someone had spotted her, she stumbled upon the blonde man's group planning an attack and overheard them talking about the key being there. Considering the situation, Lucia prioritized protecting the key, but recalling memories with Kodaru and the others, she ultimately decided to protect her friends. She swiftly took down 2 enemies, but the blonde man launched a surprise lava attack. He then created a burning battlefield. Realizing the fire would soon spread, Lucia tried to end the fight quickly. She used a poison that withered the surrounding area to suppress the flames, then launched a poisonous strike that caused the man to bleed, but he resisted, unleashed a power burst, and impaled her with a fiery spear. Over with Gaia, Senri had made her decision. She would let Chiha leave the organization to find Kadaru. Before leaving, she gave Chiha a letter to hand to Kadaru. She would take care of the rest. The very next morning, Chiha set out to find Kuto's base using a map. Along the way, she stumbled upon a severely injured Lucia. While unsure what to do, she encountered Kotori and Kadaru. The three brought Lucia back to the base for treatment. Kotori copied Shizeru's healing power, but the bleeding would not stop. Kagari then suggested using her ribbon to wrap the wounds, and surprisingly, this simple method worked better than powers. Later, Lucia regained consciousness and reunited with everyone. She was relieved that everyone was okay. And when Kadaru introduced her to Kagari, saying she was his friend, it filled Lucia with happiness. Sakuya had also returned after reinforcing their defenses. On Sanrei's side, she began to inherit the memories of the previous Holy Maiden, her grandmother. She then received news that her grandmother had been hospitalized. Meanwhile, within Guardian, Shizeru kept Lucia's location a secret. Back with Sanri, after visiting her grandmother, she encountered the blonde man again. He reported everything and revealed that Lucia's poison was still killing him slowly. Seeing this, Sanri granted him new power, offering him a monster to command on the condition that he ensures the key remains intact. He immediately agreed, as his main target was Kataru. At this time, Kadaru was still training. After finishing, exhausted, he went to take a bath but ended up bumping into the girls and got thrown out by Kagari. After bathing, they all sat together, and Kodaru asked why Gaia and Guardian were fighting if their goals were the same. The answer was simple. Gaia wanted to wipe out humanity to restore the planet, while Guardian aimed to protect the world humans had built. Druid existed to protect the key until it made its judgment. Kadaru asked what each side would do if they obtained the key. Gaia would guard it until the judgment occurred, while Guardian wanted to destroy the key to ensure humanity's safety. That night, as everyone slept, Kodaru talked with Kagari, asking whether humanity was so useless that the earth had to take form and judge them. She agreed that humans were foolish and always drained resources, but she could not make a decision based solely on that. There were still good aspects of humanity, which she saw through Kadaru, giving her reason to reconsider and make a more thoughtful judgment. On the final day of the Harvest Festival, all the factions began to move. Having tracked Kagari's location and prepared to invade the forest, the blonde man struck first, bringing his dinosaur monster to smash through the barrier and storm the base. Knowing they could not defeat him yet, Couture released all the creatures to stall him while the others escaped. Even sending out Groot-like creatures did not help. His monster killed them quickly, and his firepower only made it worse. Still, Kutori urged everyone to flee, revealing she had one more card to play. Her parents, who had died 6 years ago, recreated to help delay the attacker. Meanwhile, the Guardian faction moved in, keeping Shizeru in the car as a trump card. Back with the fleeing group, Couture tried to smile to reassure everyone, but her tears would not stop. Kadaru apologized to her for being too insensitive before and failing to see her feelings. But before they could talk further, the blonde man returned. He used fire to separate Kadaru and Kagari from the others. Kadaru told everyone to escape while he handled the enemy. Kagari remained silent, staring into the distance. The blonde man charged at Kadaru, and although he had been trained by Sakuya, Kadaru was quickly overwhelmed. Just as the blonde man had the upper hand, Lucia's poison flared up in his body, allowing Kadaru to land a strike. Furious, the man summoned his dinosaur to bite Kadaru, but then the Guardian team arrived, those same people from the late-night ramen shop. However, upon seeing the key, they turned their attack on Kagari. At that moment, the blonde man kept his promise to Sanri. He used his dinosaur to protect Kagari and create an escape path for them. But one man could not fight off 7, and with Lucia's poison still weakening him, he finally fell in battle. Kadaru, wounded, ran to Kagari and asked what she was really searching for. She simply kept staring in one direction. Kadaru collapsed from exhaustion, but someone began healing him. It was Shizeru, who had decided to stand with her friends. Kadaru passed out, and when he awoke, everyone had reunited. He had been brought to a stone city a Gaia branch location, and as always, Kagari continued staring into the distance. On Senrei's side, she asked her grandmother why she was so obsessed with wiping out humanity. Her grandmother said it was because previous holy maidens had lost faith in mankind, something that accumulated over generations. When chosen as a holy maiden, one would inherit all their memories and eventually be controlled by them, without even a single happy memory to offset it. But Senri believed she had found happiness. Her grandmother said she would wait to see how long that would last, then took her to witness the end of humanity. Meanwhile, back with Kadaru, Kagari, after standing still for a while, finally spoke. It was unfortunate that she could not find even a single good memory about humanity. Then she screamed in pain, and the stone city was pulled to the surface. The mistletoe tree had grown up to the edge of the sky, and monsters inside the city began pouring out, slaughtering humans. In the days that followed, it was a true catastrophe for humanity. Disasters broke out across the world. Factions kept fighting each other, and there was nothing but bloodshed and ruin. On one particularly chaotic day, Kadaru carried Kotori to the rooftop of a building so she could see the world. After Kagari's judgment, a giant monster appeared, shaking the heavens and earth just as Kagari woke up again. This time she had returned to normal, saying there had been a song bothering her for days, and it seemed to have finally stopped. Kadaru was relieved she was okay, but Isaka appeared. His intent to kill Kagari was clear. Kadaru knew how strong he was, and had no choice but to use his rewrite power, ignoring Sakuya's warning that overuse would strip him of his humanity. He accelerated his body 10-fold to fight Asaka, rewriting his cells every time he was hit to the point that even his wounds no longer bled. Seeing Kadaru pushing beyond human limits, Isaka decided to take him down before he became a monster. But Shizo arrived on a motorcycle and dragged Isaka away to fight elsewhere. She had chosen to protect her friend. Meanwhile, Kadaru's body began transforming into a tree. Kagari now understood why she had been drawn to him. It was because her cells were inside him. It turned out the girl in Kadaru's old memories was Couture, who had witnessed Kagari attacking him and did not know why he was there. Worried, Couture had begged Kagari to help and was given a red ribbon to heal him and save his life. But now there was no way to save him. Kagari's power had grown too much after so many rewrites. Kodaru's human body could no longer contain it. Yet, if that power was removed, Kotaru would still die, because it was the very thing keeping him alive. At that moment, Pai and Gil finally served their purpose. If they could patch the wound and replace the power in Kadaru's body, he could survive. After all, they had shared so many joyful times together. Kagari then pulled out her ribbon and placed the two creatures into Kadaru, helping him regain consciousness. Kotori kept quiet about Pai and Gil's sacrifice, but before they could do anything else, Kagari heard that song again, which drove her to unleash more destruction. Kadaru,น้อยกว่าอัง มากกว่า S-arm, suddenly grew into a tree. Sandri had been possessed to continue the song of annihilation, using it to manipulate Kagari into destroying more. Kagari then began turning into a tree herself. Kodaru, dragging his battered body, struggled to pull her out. Miraculously, he awakened her by grabbing her boobs, but even though she regained consciousness, the world had already fallen to the brink of extinction. Everyone else slowly disappeared from the world, with no exceptions. Chihaya, Lucia, Shizeru, and Kuturi all faded away. In the end, only Kadaru and Kagari remained. As Kadaru watched his friends vanish, Kagari said one final thing before turning into a tree. She believed he would save everyone